Welcome back to Only Talk Sports. We talk sports every single day, or at least we try to. I'm Ernest Jeffrey. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our video. College football is getting closer and closer, and as requested by one of my viewers, I'm going to be doing a prediction today of the Ole Miss Rebels for the 2023 college football season. Now, Ole Miss is actually one of the teams that is the most interesting to talk about in the preseason because they have a quarterback battle of the ages going on in Oxford, Mississippi. We're going to get into that and more, talk as well about Lane Kiffin and his coaching success at Ole Miss and this upcoming season as well, and see how good I think that the Ole Miss Rebels are going to do in 2023. Now, looking at Lane Kiffin, he's had a really interesting career because he coached the Tennessee Volunteers for really brief, then he went out to USC, and then had the whole incident where he got left out on the tarmac by the Trojans, and then after that he went to Florida Atlantic after being the Alabama offensive coordinator. That revitalized his career. He had success with Florida Atlantic as well, and now he's been the Ole Miss head coach. He's been solid. He's 23-13 and 14-11 in the SEC with the Rebels, and that's not too bad, especially considering that Ole Miss is a team that just doesn't really have the ability to get top in NIL, just like those other schools in the SEC West, like LSU and Alabama and Texas A&M. Ole Miss does a really solid job competing in the NIL space, but they are a step behind in that regard, and Lane Kiffin is doing everything he possibly can to bring in talent despite those limitations, and he's done a fantastic job. But there have been some question marks, especially in certain key games, of decision-making as a coach, being able to put his team with the best chance to win. That Mississippi State game last year was a classic example of that, with the two-point conversion that went horribly wrong, and the timeout as well. Ole Miss lost that game in the Egg Bowl, and granted, it was awesome to see Mike Leach get a win in his final game as head coach. Rest in peace to Mike Leach. But that was a tough loss for Ole Miss, and it really kind of downed their season a bit, even though that they were already out from being able to have some of the goals that they wanted to reach last season. But can they do better this year? Lane Kiffin's going to have to utilize the talent. But first, he needs to figure out a quarterback, because Jaxson Dart was the starting quarterback for Ole Miss last season, and he actually was really solid. He transferred in from USC, which is a common theme for Ole Miss. I know a lot of teams have a lot of transfers playing for their team, but literally every single starting player for Ole Miss next season, besides their star tailback, is a transfer. That's insane. But Jaxson Dart was solid coming over from USC, and again, he made mistakes last year, but overall, he was a guy that you don't mind having as a starting quarterback. He doesn't make too many mistakes, and he is on the younger side, so he still has room to grow. He has a 61% completion percentage, and throughout his career, he has 25 touchdowns to 13 picks and 2 rushing touchdowns. Double the touchdowns to picks. That's not too bad at all. And in one of their practice scrimmages, he was 7-9 for 94 yards and a pick. You would like him not to have that pick there, but still the completion percentage is really solid. But why is he not guaranteed to be the starting quarterback if he was last season? That's because Spencer Sanders, the quarterback for the Oklahoma State Cowboys, transferred into Ole Miss. And this is bizarre. I covered this when Spencer Sanders transferred to Ole Miss, and I did say in that video, if Spencer Sanders thinks that he can win this job and be able to boost his stock for the NFL draft by being a starting quarterback in the SEC and having success versus being in the Big 12, then I guess this transfer makes sense. But this was not a slam dunk that Spencer Sanders was going to win the job. Jaxson Dart is a really capable quarterback, and there has been some expressed frustration about this situation overall, because Jaxson Dart, what if this hurts his confidence that he had to go through this severe of a quarterback battle to be able to win the job back? What if he struggles because of it? And what about Spencer Sanders, who thought maybe that he would be able to come in and win the job fairly easily, and he just is not getting the job done? Both quarterbacks are in a very tight battle. What makes this tough for Jaxson Dart is that Spencer Sanders is in his 6th year of college football. Jaxson Dart's much younger, so Sanders has the experience, but looking at his stats, he has 67 touchdowns and 40 picks and 18 rushing touchdowns. And in the practice game they had, he was 9 of 17 for 140 yards and a pick, and he had 29 rushing yards and a touchdown. And he also, again, has the exact same completion percentage as Jaxson Dart at 61%. So Spencer Sanders has more experience, but he is very turnover prone. He's had a lot of picks throughout his career, way more than half the picks to touchdowns. So Jaxson Dart hasn't beaten that regard, but Jaxson Dart just does not have the experience that Spencer Sanders has. And it's going to be really interesting to see who wins the job. I really do think that Jaxson Dart has a great shot to win the job because he was the starting quarterback in Lane Kiffin's system all of last season, and Spencer Sanders was not. But Spencer Sanders, again, has that experience, and whoever wins the job, it's going to be really tough, specifically for Spencer Sanders, if he doesn't win the job, for him to be a backup in the other starting, because this is his last season of college football, and he'll have no more time to be able to possibly impress NFL scouts. But for Jaxson Dart, he definitely wants to win the job, but we'll see if Lane Kiffin goes with the experience and lets Jaxson Dart learn behind Sanders for this year and wins the job back the year after that, or if Spencer Spencer Sanders' transfer was for nothing and Jaxson Dart wins the job. I actually do think that Jaxson Dart will win the job, but I actually have no idea. It could go either way, but I do think that Ole Miss will have a capable quarterback either way. But enough on the quarterback situation. I could have talked about that for a lot longer, but at least we do know that the starting running back for Ole Miss is not in question. Quinshon Judkins, he's a stud. He was fantastic as a true freshman last year for the Rebels, and a lot of programs want him, but he stayed at Ole Miss, and that's going to really help out Lane Kiffin because he's going to put up big numbers this season. I think he was fantastic last year, and I think he's only going to get better. Ulysses Bentley, he transferred to Ole Miss. He's a solid running back. Number 2, I think he'll have a solid season behind Quinshon Judkins. Wide receiver Zachary Franklin's another fantastic addition for the Ole Miss Rebels. He transferred in from UTSA. Tough loss for Frank Harris and the Roadrunners because of the fact that Zachary Franklin was Frank Harris's biggest target, and he'll have a lot of success with whoever's throwing passes to him, Jaxson Dart or Spencer Sanders. Zachary Franklin's going to be one of the best receivers in college football next season, I think, even though he is going to be taking a jump from UTSA to the SEC. Wide receiver Trey Harris and wide receiver Jordan Watkins round out the starting receiving corps. They're all transfers as well. I think they should have a lot of success. And tight end Cade Prescorn, he's a transfer also. Like I said, a bunch of transfers, but Cade Prescorn is a really talented player. Defensive end Jared Ivey and defensive tackle J.J. Peaks lead an Ole Miss defense that I do think will be a bit improved. Ole Miss's defense used to struggle a lot in the past, but it did seem to take a step forward last year, and I think it could take an even bigger step forward this year. And they're going to have to because we're about to get to the schedule, but Ole Miss's schedule is brutal, and if their defense does not play well this season, Ole Miss will really struggle to win games. Kicker Kane Costa, he's a pretty solid kicker, and that definitely helps lead the Ole Miss special teams. But now to get to the Ole Miss schedule, because again, this is going to determine how good the Rebels do. They start out with Mercer. That's an easy win right there. But then they have a sneaky good non-conference game at Tulane. Tulane is a team that's ranked in the top 25 to start the season. They had a lot of success last year with Tyjae Spears at running back, Michael Pratt at quarterback. Tyjae Spears is gone, but Michael Pratt is back, and I think Michael Pratt should have a great season for the Tulane Green Wave again. And the game's at Tulane, so this is not going to be a slam dunk win for Ole Miss. Ole Miss has more talent, but I do think that this is going to be a barn burner game that Ole Miss is really going to have to win if they want to have a great season. Versus Georgia Tech, that's a game you'd think that they'd win because Georgia Tech is really struggling right now. At Alabama is going to be tough. Ole Miss always hangs with Alabama. Lane Kiffin always gives Alabama his best shot, but Alabama still has more talent despite the fact that they have quarterback questions. It's going to be really tough in Bryant-Denny. Then they have LSU at home. LSU is a team that a lot of people are wondering if they really are the 5th best team in the country, which is what their preseason AP ranking is. I feel like Ole Miss has a shot here because it is in Oxford, but still it's going to be an extremely tough game for them to win. Then they have Arkansas. Arkansas is taking a bit of a step back from where they were a couple years ago with Sam Pittman, but Arkansas is still going to be a really tough team. They have KJ Jefferson back, and it is at Ole Miss, but still this is not going to be an easy game at all, and it just shows you how tough the SEC, particularly the SEC West, is. Then they have at Auburn, and Auburn's really been struggling, and you feel like Ole Miss should be favored to win this game, and they should be able to win this game, but still, this is not an easy game, especially coming off a 3-game stretch against Alabama, LSU, and Arkansas. They cannot overlook Auburn. Ole Miss definitely, if they slip up in this game, it could really start to make their season go in the wrong direction, and they'll have no shot of getting in a really big bowl game this year. Then they play Vanderbilt. That should be a game that Ole Miss would win, but even Vanderbilt's been a bit tougher lately. Then they have A&M at home. A&M has tons of talent. A&M's always tough to play. It's at Ole Miss, but still A&M was able to knock off LSU last season despite going 5-7, so Ole Miss definitely cannot overlook the Aggies. Then they have at Georgia, which is going to be an extremely tough game right there. They have at Alabama and at Georgia on the road this season. That is never a tandem that you want to have to face in the same season, especially on the road. That's going to be a tall order for the Rebels. Then they have UL Monroe, the annual get-right game before the final game of the regular season. That's the game that Ole Miss should win. And then they play at Mississippi State. And Mississippi State beat Ole Miss last year. The Bulldogs have a lot of question marks coming into this season with Mike Leach no longer being the head coach, unfortunately, for Mississippi State. Can Ole Miss take advantage of that and be able to win this game? It's going to be extremely tough. Mississippi State has been doing a good job against Ole Miss lately in the rivalry, but I do think that Ole Miss can win this game, and they're really going to have this win, especially if they have slipped up in some of the games earlier in the season. So what do I think that the Ole Miss's record prediction will be for the 2023 college football season? I think that their ceiling can be 9-3. I want to go 10-2 so badly because I do think that Lane Kiffin is capable of leading the Rebels to a lot of success, and he has taken them to a 10-2 regular season before, but this schedule is just extremely tough, and I don't think that Jaxson Dart or Spencer Sanders will be able to lead Ole Miss to a 10-2 record with the schedule that the Rebels have. I think that their floor is 6-6. I was tempted to even say 5-7 because this is a gauntlet of a schedule, but I do think that Lane Kiffin will find a way to at least keep Ole Miss at 500, even if the bottom falls out with this tough schedule. And for my actual record prediction for Ole Miss, I'm going to tentatively go with 8-4. I almost went with 7-5, but I do think that they'll go 8-4. They'll probably lose to Georgia, Alabama, possibly LSU, and maybe one of the games between Texas A&M and Mississippi State. I feel like they'll find a way to beat Arkansas and Auburn, and I do think that they'll beat Tulane in the non-conference. It's going to be an extremely tough schedule, and I think there's going to be a lot of work for Lane Kiffin trying to figure out who the starting quarterback is going to be. He's going to have to hope his defense does improve, but with Zachary Franklin at wideout and having Quinshawn Judkins at running back, 2 stars on the offensive side of the ball, I do think that whoever starts at quarterback for Ole Miss is going to have a lot of weapons, and that's going to extremely help them out, and I do think their defense will be improved, but with that gauntlet of a schedule, I just cannot go any higher than 8-4 for Ole Miss, but it's going to be really interesting to see how Ole Miss does in 2023. Comment down below what you think Ole Miss's record will be for the 2023 season in college football, whether you think that they'll go better or worse or right at 8-4, and how good of a job you think that Lane Kiffin is doing as head coach of the Ole Miss Rebels. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Like this video down below. Follow me on Twitter as well. Link is in the description, and I will see you next time.